One is, by 2014, social networking services will replace email as the primary vehicle for interpersonal communications for 20% of business users. So this is a continuation of some of the trends that we're already seeing, particularly driven by a lot of changing demographics. The young people in university now who are using Facebook and Twitter and other sites like that in order to communicate, they are showing that they are using email far less. Typically they use email only to communicate with parents and professors. That's the kind of the classic kind of reaction that often happens. And Facebook and other kinds of social networking sites really take up everything else. Now, we don't think it's going to go completely that way. That's why we say it's really for 20% of the users, which is, still even to say 20% are going to largely reduce their use of email is already a pretty bold prediction, but it's not going to be 100%. Because we also find when these young people come into the workplace, they often kind of take over the mores and the standards and the ways that the organizations work. So there will be a certain percentage who will have far less use of email than we're probably expecting. By 2012, over 50% of enterprises will use activity streams that include microblogging, but standalone enterprise microblogging will have less than 5% penetration. Now, this is one where we're really looking at the idea of enterprise microblogging. So, because many people are familiar with Twitter in the consumer space, in the larger internet space. However, Twitter itself, or the concept of microblogging, is having a bit of a harder time as it penetrates the enterprise. And for this, I'm not talking about companies that use Twitter as a means of marketing. That certainly continues. But I'm talking about microblogging between people within an enterprise, and it itself will have a fairly low penetration because of the it will have a fairly low penetration. One of the reasons why Twitter has become so popular, to put it glibly, one reason it's popular is because it's popular. It's very large. There's a large number of people participating. There's a large number of updates that come. So that volume in itself begins to attract it. When you take microblogging and use it only within the enterprise, you don't get that volume. You don't get that huge number of comments. So a lot of the attractiveness of it kind of goes away. It's not nearly as large. So that's why I think standalone microblogging on its own will have very low penetration within corporate enterprises. However, it will penetrate in a slightly different form, because I think activity streams, which is something that we're familiar from Facebook. When you look at the wall of Facebook, basically you're seeing an activity stream of all of the things that your friends are doing, what they've posted, what they've commented on, what they've done. That has a very rich application within enterprises to be able to see that Jim has gone on holiday, Joyce has completed this project, Alan is 2 weeks behind on this particular project. So to be able to see that stream of activities, very business-oriented indications, together with microblogs, so that people are making those microblogs, those small comments, and that gets interspersed within those activity streams, that has a much higher chance of getting quite a bit of adoption. So I think that's going to be the route to adoption for microblogging, not standalone, but as part of a larger platform concentrating around activity streams. 12, over 70% of IT-dominated social media initiatives will fail. Well, this is something we're really already seeing, and we think that it's really going to continue for a while, because a common pattern we see is that when IT pushes through these social software initiatives, it's kind of pushing it out there saying, here's something cool, now go do something cool with it. It typically just kind of lands with a thud, and nobody really knows what to do with it, because the business users, they quite rightly say, well, why should I bother? What's the point? What's the value? I got work to do. I don't need to pick up these new tools just because somebody thinks it's cool. So where they are successful, it comes when the business leaders are very directly involved, because they understand why they're going to do it, what the purpose is, what the business value that they're going to get out of it, how they want to use it. So it's the IT domination of this prediction that really kind of determines the success or not. When the business are involved, it has a far higher rate of success. Within 5 years, 70% of collaboration and communications applications designed on PCs will be modeled after user experience lessons from smartphone collaboration applications. Now, this also is something that we're beginning to see now, where the design requirements are being far more influenced by smartphones than they are the other way around, which is really a bit of a change. Typically now, when you look at an enterprise application which is deployed on a phone, it is very much a dumbed down or a stripped down version of the PC software. So we take what we do on the PC and we rip out everything that we possibly can just to give it a very, very simplified kind of interface. Now when you look at things, particularly coming from the iPhone, it has its very own specific kind of design language and the way that it interacts. And that is, as we're seeing right now with the iPad, which is very directly related with the iPhone, now that is starting to determine the way people expect applications to behave, what they look like and how you should be able to manipulate them using gestures, how you move from screen to screen, how you keep the context to be able to keep that information. So we think that is going to continue. In fact, we've seen it already with Facebook. Looks a lot similar to its mobile phone applications than others have. So we see that with the consumer applications, where it's already is the case that the phone kind of determines the design and the laptop or the web version is kind of following off of it. So we think that it is beginning in some environments now, and it will be much more widespread within the next 5 years. Through 2015, only 25% of enterprises will routinely utilize social network analysis to improve performance and productivity. Now, this is an area that we think is actually a prediction that we're a little disappointed with, but we still think it's going to be true, because social network analysis is a largely overlooked area that companies can use to provide value. Social network analysis is different than social networking itself or social media. The analysis part really says you want to look at how people communicate, how they work together, who are the natural communicators, who are the hubs between different groups, who are the high communicators, who are the ones that have lots of different contacts with other people, who are the recluses, the hermits, who don't talk to anybody. This analysis, analyzing who communicates with whom, who comments on what kind of issues, that provides very useful information for management, for HR, for finding the people, the right influencers. Who are the people that have a high level of influence or unseen power within the organization. Now, it can be a rich source of information for managers. Everybody knows that there is always, within every organization, there's an official organization chart that has lots of nice little boxes with lines drawn and who reports to whom. But everybody knows there's sort of a parallel, real or actual organization chart where the people that don't necessarily have important titles, it could be an administrative assistant, or a scheduler or a business development person. They've got the connections. They know what's going on. Social network analysis really tries to find out who they are and enable you to be able to change your process to take advantage of that.